There is a quiet moment many people experience but rarely talk about, when the hands tingle for no clear reason, when the legs feel weak not from effort, but from absence. Absence of nourishment, of structural support, of the subtle biological conversations that keep nerves alive and muscles responsive. These sensations are not signs of aging alone. They are messages. And when we learn how to listen, the body often responds with remarkable generosity. When we speak of collagen in the context of health, it is important to release the modern habit of associating it only with skin or appearance, because biologically collagen has never been cosmetic. It is structural, foundational, and deeply functional. Collagen forms the living framework that gives shape and resilience to the body, wrapping around nerves, reinforcing blood vessels, and creating the connective pathways that allow muscles to generate force without injury. In the hands and legs especially, collagen acts like a quiet stabilizer, holding delicate nerve fibers in place so electrical signals can travel without distortion or loss. As collagen slowly declines with age, those signals begin to fray, not dramatically, but subtly, first appearing as numbness, tingling, or a sense that strength is no longer dependable. This decline is not sudden failure, but gradual thinning of the body's internal scaffolding. Nerves require physical protection just as much as they require chemical balance. And collagen provides that protection by forming sheaths and connective layers that reduce friction and mechanical stir. SS. When these layers weaken, nerves become more vulnerable to compression, inflammation, and impaired circulation. The result is not pain at first, but sensation that feels distant or unreliable, as though the body is slightly out of sync with itself. Weak legs often follow the same pattern, not because muscles have disappeared, but because the connective network that coordinates movement has lost integrity. From a scientific perspective, collagen is composed of amino acids that the body uses not only for structure, but also for signaling and repair. Glycine, for example, plays a calming role in the nervous system, reducing excessive neural firing that can worsen tingling sensations. Proline supports tissue regeneration, allowing micro-damage in connective tissue to heal before it becomes chronic. When dietary intake of these building blocks is low, the body prioritizes survival over maintenance, redirecting resources away from connective tissue repair. Over time, this decision becomes visible in posture, balance, and sensory feedback. What makes this process profound is that it unfolds quietly. There is no dramatic warning, no clear moment when collagen depletion announces itself. Instead, the body adapts, compensates, and endures until small signals become noticeable enough to raise concern. Tingling hands are not simply nerve irritation. They are evidence of a support system that has thinned beyond its margin of comfort. Weak legs are not merely fatigue. They are a reminder that strength depends on integrity, not just muscle mass. Food enters this conversation not as a remedy, but as a language the body understands. Collagen-rich nourishment provides raw materials, but more importantly, it signals safety and abundance, allowing the body to shift from conservation to repair. When collagen intake is consistent, connective tissues regain density, nerve insulation improves, and circulation through small vessels becomes more efficient. This improves oxygen delivery and waste removal around nerves, reducing the inflammatory environment that often accompanies tingling sensations. Philosophically, collagen teaches us something subtle about aging and care. The body does not fail abruptly. It slowly asks for reinforcement. These requests come not in words, but in sensations that feel inconvenient or easy to dismiss. Responding to them requires patience rather than urgency, consistency rather than intensity. Collagen rebuilding is slow, deliberate, and cumulative, mirroring the way the body itself prefers to heal. There is also a psychological dimension to this process. When physical sensations become unreliable, trust between mind and body erodes. Hands that tingle and legs that weaken create hesitation, and hesitation changes how a person moves through the world. By restoring the physical structures that support nerves and muscles, collagen nourishment indirectly restores confidence, allowing movement to feel intuitive again rather than cautious. In this way, collagen is less a supplement and more a principle of biological respect. It acknowledges that the body is not merely a machine of parts, but a living structure that depends on continuity and reinforcement. When that structure is supported, sensation becomes clearer, strength becomes steadier, and the body resumes a quieter, more reliable conversation with itself. Certain collagen-rich snacks work not because they are fashionable or heavily marketed, but because they respect the physiology of absorption and repair that governs the human body. The body does not rebuild connective tissue in bursts of enthusiasm. It does so slowly, rhythmically, and only when the internal environment feels stable. Collagen-containing foods that are gentle, warm, and naturally broken down during preparation arrive in the digestive system already aligned with this rhythm. When proteins are partially hydrolyzed through slow cooking, fermentation, or natural gelatin formation, the body expends less energy digesting them and more energy integrating them into tissue repair from a biological standpoint. Collagen is most effective when it enters the bloodstream as small peptides and amino acids rather than intact protein chains. These smaller units can cross the intestinal barrier efficiently and circulate to areas of microdamage in nerves, joints, and connective tissue. Snacks that provide collagen in this accessible form reduce the digestive burden, particularly in older adults whose stomach acid and enzyme production may have declined. This is not a flaw of aging, but an adaptive shift. And collagen-rich foods that work with this shift rather than against it produce more reliable results. The presence of gelatin in these snacks plays a quiet but significant role in nervous system support. Gelatin forms a soft matrix that slows digestion, preventing sudden spikes in blood sugar and insulin. Stable blood sugar is essential for nerve health, as fluctuations can irritate nerve endings and worsen tingling sensations. By maintaining metabolic collagen-rich snacks create an internal environment where nerves can recover rather than remain in a state of constant alert. Equally important is the effect these foods have on inflammation. Chronic, low-grade inflammation compresses nerves, restricts blood flow, and disrupts signal transmission. Collagen peptides have been shown to support the integrity of connective tissue surrounding nerves, reducing mechanical stress and inflammatory irritation. When this tissue regains elasticity and thickness, nerves are no longer pressed or pulled during movement. Allowing sensations to normalize gradually rather than abruptly, there is also an interaction between collagen intake and the gut lining that often goes unnoticed. The digestive tract itself is lined with connective tissue that relies heavily on collagen for strength and permeability control. When this lining is compromised, nutrient absorption becomes inefficient and inflammatory compounds enter circulation more easily. Collagen-rich snacks reinforce this barrier, improving nutrient uptake and reducing systemic inflammation, which indirectly benefits nerve function in the hands and legs. This interconnectedness explains why people often notice improvements in sensation and strength, even before they consciously associate the change with their diet, minerals, and co-nutrients naturally present in collagen-supportive foods further enhance their effectiveness. Elements like magnesium and zinc assist in nerve conduction and tissue repair, while vitamin C acts as a catalyst for collagen synthesis within the body. When these nutrients arrive together, they function not as isolated components but as a coordinated system. This synergy is why whole food collagen snacks tend to outperform isolated compounds, offering biological coherence rather than fragmented intervention on a deeper level. These snacks reflect a principle of nourishment that extends beyond chemistry. They encourage regularity, warmth, and attentiveness, qualities that align with how the nervous system heals. Eating collagen-rich foods slowly and consistently sends a signal of safety to the brain, reducing stress hormones that otherwise interfere with tissue repair. The nervous system, sensing reduced threat, shifts toward regeneration rather than defense. Over time, this shift becomes tangible. Tingling fades not because nerves are forced into silence, but because they are no longer irritated or undernourished. Weakness recedes not through exertion, but through restoration of the connective pathways that translate intention into movement. The body begins to move with less resistance, less hesitation, and more internal coherence. What makes this approach enduring is its humility. Collagen-rich snacks do not promise rapid transformation. They offer steady support. They respect the pace at which the body heals and the intelligence with which it prioritizes repair. In choosing such nourishment, one participates in a dialogue with the body rather than issuing commands, allowing repair to emerge naturally from conditions that favor balance and continuity. The nervous system is often imagined as a network of wires, but in reality it is a living interface, constantly negotiating with blood chemistry, mineral availability, and digestive efficiency. Nerves do not simply transmit signals, they respond to the quality of the internal environment in which they exist. When blood sugar rises and falls unpredictably, nerve endings become more excitable and less precise, producing sensations such as tingling, burning, or weakness that appear without obvious cause. This is why nourishment that stabilizes metabolic patterns can have a direct and noticeable effect on nerve health. Collagen-rich snacks that are balanced with healthy fats and gentle carbohydrates slow glucose absorption and prevent sudden metabolic shifts. Stable blood sugar supports mitochondrial function within nerve cells, allowing them to produce energy efficiently without generating excess oxidative stress. This energy stability is essential for maintaining the iron gradients that allow nerves to fire accurately. When these gradients are disrupted, nerve signals lose clarity, resulting in sensations that feel diffuse or distorted rather than sharp and controlled. Mineral balance plays an equally critical role. Magnesium, potassium, and calcium regulate nerve excitability and muscle contraction, determining whether signals are smooth or erratic. Collagen-supportive foods often naturally contain or complement these minerals, improving their absorption and retention. When mineral levels are adequate, nerve membranes maintain their electrical stability, reducing spontaneous firing that manifests as tingling in the hands or weakness in the legs. This effect is cumulative, building gradually as tissues rehydrate and cellular balance is restored. Circulation forms the physical pathway through which these nutrients exert their influence. Nerves require a constant supply of oxygen and glucose, delivered through small, delicate blood vessels that are themselves supported by collagen. When collagen integrity declines, these vessels become less resilient, impairing blood flow and increasing vulnerability to pressure and inflammation. Collagen-rich nourishment reinforces vascular walls, improving microcirculation and ensuring that nerves receive consistent nourishment. Improved circulation often feels like warmth returning to cold extremities, a sign that tissue perfusion is normalizing. The gut, often overlooked in discussions of nerve health, acts as a regulatory center for all these processes. A healthy gut lining selectively absorbs nutrients while preventing inflammatory compounds from entering circulation. Collagen supports the structural proteins of this lining, improving its function and reducing systemic inflammation. Lower inflammation reduces immune-mediated irritation of nerves, allowing sensations to settle into a more stable pattern. This explains why digestive comfort and nerve comfort frequently improve together, even when the initial concern is tingling or weakness. There is also a hormonal dimension to this relationship. Stress hormones such as cortisol alter blood sugar handling, mineral retention, and circulation, creating an internal environment that sensitizes nerves. Collagen intake, particularly when combined with calming amino acids like glycine, has been associated with improved sleep quality and reduced stress response. Better sleep and hormonal balance allow tissues to repair overnight, reinforcing nerve insulation and muscle coordination during periods of rest. From a systems perspective, these interactions illustrate that nerve symptoms are rarely isolated failures. They are reflections of multiple physiological conversations happening at once, addressing only the nerve without supporting blood chemistry, circulation, and digestion is akin to repairing a single beam in a weakened structure. Collagen-rich snacks work because they influence several of these systems simultaneously, gently nudging the body back toward equilibrium rather than forcing a localized correction. As these systems regain coherence, the nervous system responds with increased confidence, signals travel more efficiently, muscles respond more predictably, and sensation becomes less intrusive. Tingling no longer demands attention, and movement feels less negotiated. This is not the result of suppression, but of restoration, where the body's internal conditions once again support clarity of communication at a human level. This process invites patience and attentiveness. The body does not announce repair. With dramatic milestones, it reveals progress through subtle ease. Hands feel more present, legs feel more trustworthy, and movement regains a sense of continuity. These changes reflect a deeper biological truth that health emerges not from isolated interventions, but from the alignment of systems that were always designed to work together. Weakness in the legs is often interpreted as a simple decline in muscle strength, yet this interpretation overlooks the more intricate reality of how movement is generated and controlled. Muscles do not act independently. They rely on a continuous conversation with the nervous system, transmitted through connective tissue that organizes, distributes, and refines force. This connective tissue, known as fascia, forms a vast web that surrounds muscle fibers, links muscle groups together, and anchors them to bones. Fascia is rich in collagen, and when its quality declines, movement becomes less efficient even if muscle mass remains relatively intact. Fascia functions as both a mechanical and sensory organ. It stores elastic energy during movement and releases it to support balance and coordination. It also contains nerve endings that inform the brain about position, tension, and motion. When fascia is healthy, these signals are precise, allowing the legs to respond smoothly to changes in terrain or posture. When fascia becomes dehydrated, stiff, or fragmented due to collagen loss, this sensory feedback becomes distorted. The brain receives incomplete information, and the legs respond with hesitation or instability that feels like weakness rather than pain. From a physiological standpoint, collagen provides fascia with tensile strength and flexibility. Without adequate collagen, fascial layers lose their ability to glide over one another, increasing friction during movement. This friction not only wastes energy, but also places stress on surrounding nerves and blood vessels. Over time, this stress contributes to fatigue and diminished endurance, even during ordinary activities such as standing or walking. The sensation of weak legs in this context reflects inefficiency rather than true loss of power. The relationship between fascia and circulation further clarifies this experience. Blood vessels pass through fascial layers, relying on their elasticity to accommodate changes in pressure and movement. When fascial tissue stiffens, circulation becomes restricted, reducing oxygen delivery to muscles and nerves in the legs. This creates a feedback loop where reduced blood flow increases fatigue, and fatigue further impairs movement quality. Collagen-rich nourishment helps restore fascial hydration and elasticity, allowing circulation to improve and metabolic waste to clear more efficiently. Coordination depends not only on strength but also on timing. Fascia transmits force between muscles, ensuring that movement occurs as a unified action rather than isolated contractions. When this transmission is compromised, muscles may activate out of sequence, producing a sense of clumsiness or instability. Collagen supports the integrity of these transmission pathways, allowing force to move seamlessly through the body. As these pathways recover, the legs regain fluidity and confidence, even without significant changes in muscle size. There is also an adaptive aspect to fascial health that is often misunderstood. Fascia responds to mechanical stress by remodeling itself, thickening or thinning according to use. However, this remodeling requires adequate collagen availability. Without it, fascia becomes rigid and unresponsive, unable to adapt to new demands. This rigidity contributes to the feeling that legs tire easily or resist movement, reinforcing a cycle of reduced activity and further connective tissue decline. Psychologically, leg weakness carries an emotional weight that extends beyond physical limitation. The legs represent mobility, independence, and engagement with the world. When they feel unreliable, individuals often unconsciously limit their movements, reducing opportunities for the very stimulation that maintains connective tissue health. By supporting fascia through collagen nourishment, this cycle can be gently reversed, encouraging natural movement rather than forced exercise. As fascial integrity improves, movement begins to feel less effortful. Balance stabilizes, posture becomes more upright, and the body redistributes load more evenly across joints and muscles. These changes reflect a deeper restoration of structural coherence, where strength emerges from coordination rather than exertion. In this light, collagen's role in leg strength is not about building bulk, but about restoring harmony between tissues. It supports the connective framework that allows muscles and nerves to collaborate effectively, transforming weakness into resilience through subtle but meaningful biological repair. There is something quietly transformative about choosing nourishment that works slowly, almost invisibly, because it reflects a shift in how one relates to the body. Collagen-rich snacks are not dramatic interventions. They do not announce themselves with immediate stimulation or forceful sensation. Instead, they operate beneath awareness, reinforcing tissues that rarely receive attention until they begin to fail. This subtlety mirrors the way the body itself prefers to heal, not through urgency, but through continuity and reassurance. When nourishment is consistent and supportive, the body interprets it as a signal that conditions are safe enough to invest energy in maintenance rather than mere survival. From a biological perspective, repair is an act of trust. Cells commit resources to rebuilding connective tissue only when energy availability, hormonal balance, and nutrient supply suggest stability. Collagen intake contributes to this perception of stability by providing raw materials that do not provoke stress responses in digestion or metabolism. Instead of triggering spikes in blood sugar or inflammatory reactions, collagen-rich foods tend to calm physiological systems, allowing repair processes to proceed without interruption. Over time, this steadiness accumulates, strengthening the connective networks that support nerves, muscles, and joints. This process has implications beyond physical sensation. Tingling hands and weak legs often create a subtle anxiety, a background concern that movement might become unreliable or unpredictable. This anxiety alters posture, gait, and even breathing patterns, reinforcing physical tension that further impairs circulation and nerve signaling. By addressing the underlying structural needs of the body, collagen nourishment indirectly reduces this mental vigilance. As sensations normalize, attention shifts outward again, freeing cognitive resources that were previously occupied by monitoring discomfort. There is also an ethical dimension to this kind of self-care. Choosing foods that support long-term tissue health is an acknowledgement that the body is not disposable, not something to be pushed until it breaks and then repaired hastily. It is an investment in durability, a recognition that biological systems thrive under respect rather than domination. Collagen-rich snacks embody this philosophy by aligning with the body's natural repair mechanisms instead of attempting to override them. Consistency is central to this effect. Collagen synthesis and connective tissue remodeling occur gradually, requiring repeated exposure to supportive conditions. Each nourishing choice may seem insignificant on its own, but together they create an internal environment that favors regeneration. This cumulative process parallels many meaningful changes in human life, where progress is rarely visible day to day, but becomes undeniable over time. Trust between mind and body is rebuilt in small moments. A step taken without hesitation, a grip that feels steady, a sensation that no longer demands explanation. These experiences restore confidence not through conscious effort, but through the absence of interruption. The body resumes its role as a reliable partner rather than an unpredictable variable, allowing attention to shift toward engagement rather than protection. Philosophically, this reflects a broader truth about well-being. Health is not the absence of all discomfort, but the presence of coherence. When tissues communicate effectively, when systems support one another, the body functions as an integrated whole. Collagen nourishment contributes to this coherence by reinforcing the connective structures that link disparate parts into a unified system. There is humility in accepting that repair cannot be rushed. Modern culture often equates effectiveness with speed, yet biological resilience is built through patience. Collagen-rich snacks do not accelerate the body unnaturally. They simply remove obstacles to repair, allowing intrinsic processes to unfold at their intended pace. This approach fosters sustainability rather than dependence, resilience rather than temporary relief. As this restoration continues, the relationship with the body subtly changes. Sensations become informative rather than alarming, movement becomes expressive rather than cautious, and nourishment becomes an act of dialogue rather than control. In supporting connective tissue, one supports not just physical strength, but a sense of continuity across time, where the body feels capable of carrying intention forward without resistance or fear.